All right, everybody, it is Transformation Tuesday, and if you saw me earlier today, you'd know that I was going to start with this image right here, right now. So join in. We're talking about interesting mind-body connections and how your life comes together and works together. Blessings and best regards. I'm Dr. Kevin Gyurina. It is Transformation Tuesday. This means I am going live on Tuesday night, 5 p.m., and I am streaming on a couple different sites. YouTube, a couple channels on Facebook, and Periscope. I don't have, and I won't be having Instagram up here right now. Hopefully, you're finding me. So, let's digress. Let's continue. Let's move forward. That's what we're doing here. So, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to check the chat real quick, see if anybody is plugging in, and we have someone tuning in. So, welcome. It is Decode Your Pain page, and we have the private group transformation program. That page is online, and we have the Dr. Kevin Gyurina YouTube channel going live. So I'm just letting a couple people get connected, get on board. You know, type in where you're from. Hopefully the sound is coming through loud and clear. Let me just turn that down a little bit. Hopefully that's a lot better. So let's get into the discussion here. What you're seeing is a slice of the brain. Let me get that centered again. A slice of the brain. Now this is found on page 21 of the book, Decode Your Pain. And I showed you that there's the book right there. You can find that book on my website, drkeving.com, and it is available other places. But that's where I want you to get it, because when you get the book from drkeving.com, you then have access, you then have the ability to connect to the transformation program, and this is where I help you apply the book personally to your own life. And that's the transformation program. But you get that once you have an offer to purchase that once you get the book. But here we are. Let's talk about which is called the motor homunculus. There's also the sensory homunculus. The homunculus is a funny word. It's a fancy word for an area of the brain. And what we're seeing is a slice, and here's a brain. Imagine if I cut my head right down the middle, you'd see this line right here. And they have, we'll call this the left hemisphere right there. For you, it's on your right, but that's the left hemisphere, and there'll be another hemisphere over here on this other side. And what we're seeing right here in the middle is the nerve endings that go from the brain like a wire down to a body part. And right here you have the feet. You can see the buttock. There's like the chest, and there's the arm. And you see how big the hand is right there? And we have the eyebrow, the eye, the nose, and the lips are real big. We have the tongue real big. And so what we're seeing is the representation, a visual representation of size. For the larger the body part here, the more neurons, more nerves are connected to the brain from that part. So we want our hands to be very sensitive. Our tongue and mouth are very sensitive. It's because we use them to feel and determine some of the most fine motor, fine sensory faculties that we need to build in our life. And so in part, this is where physical trauma to the brain can affect how things move and feel. And this is in part how, if we have like a physical contact, or if we have damage to the brain from nutrients, from toxins, that can affect this part of the brain. So let me scroll down to the section of the book here, and I'll pull it in. And let me zoom in just a bit so it's a little easier to read. Since all parts of the body are connected to the brain via neurons, it makes sense that our thoughts control movement and function of our body. In fact, if you actually open up the anatomy book, you look in there, you see the sensory areas are directly next to the movement areas, and there's nerve endings that intertwine between the both that correlate our sensations and our movements together. Going back here, we never actually think specifically that we want to move a body part, in this case a hand. We do it, we just do it. But lots of activity, and I'm inputting here, lots of activity, lots of neurons, lots of energy is being used that goes on in your head in order to get your hand to produce the very skilled behaviors that we use every day. Think of a child, of a newborn infant. 3 months old, and then a child that's 6 months old, a child that's 9 months, 12 months, 18 months old. There's different abilities that child has to interact with the environment. And how are those abilities gained? Through exploration, through doing it, through using the perceptions that are born within to sense and feel and determine and perceive and respond to things that that child, that infant, touches and interacts with. Yes, this is the material of the couch, of the baby chair, or whatever it is, but it's also the clothes. It's also how you are responding, how you are feeling. And we all have this experience. We walk around in a day-by-day activities and we respond to people. We respond to people's emotions, to people's arguments, to people's enjoyments and positivity. And so I've had a picture up for you. Where did it go? Well, let's see if we can find an image here for you. And I'm typing in Biofield, and I'll pull up that. Here we are. Here's some nice images right here. Okay. Let's see if we can find a really good one. Well, there's some interesting, actually, I'll just type this in here, Biofield. And here, I'll pull this picture up. Here we have an image of a piece of equipment interpreting the biofield of what is contained on the physical body and what's contained around. You can see it almost looks like tie-dye all around this individual. And what it's showing is different densities of the non-thermal electromagnetic frequencies that are emanating from our physical body and traversing along the physical body. And so I don't want you just to hear it from me. I want you to hear it from somebody else. So I got this video queued up for you. Let's take a listen. And I'm going to zoom in just a second here. Just a little bit more zoom in. See if that will work. So Biofield Science and Healing Conference. This is 2014 out there in California. And you're going to hear about a little bit from Dr. Oshman here in just a second. Let's go and play the first minute and a half, 2 minutes.
I am a biophysicist, and I study the interface between biology and physics, and now quantum physics. And the future of medicine is going to involve a lot of quantum physics. So I'm learning as fast as I can, as much as I can, and it's a very interesting subject. Yes, I worked on a white paper on biofield physiology. So I have a background in physiology, and we're very interested in how the fields within the body, which there are many, every organ produces a field. For example, the heart produces a large electrical field. Every heartbeat sends a pulse of electricity through your circulatory system, which is a good electrical conductor. So that's an example of a biofield that's running all the time. And we want to know what these fields do in the body. Usually they're regarded by medicine as kind of useful artifacts. You get your electrocardiogram taken to find out if there's anything wrong with your heart, and if there's something wrong with your heart's electrical circulation, it shows up in the electrocardiogram. But modern medicine and modern physiology doesn't usually think about whether that electricity has a function in the body, and we think it does. So our white...
Okay, so I wanted you to hear that, not from me, but from another professional that's been studying these fields. He's a PhD in a number of things that I'm not a PhD in. And it's nice to get correlating and collaborating information that brings it all full package. So if you take a look at the image here I have on my logo, you see here this right in the middle, this nice big white. And in fact, if you go deeper, you can see it in the background. But this gentleman also has it right on his shirt right here. It's very interesting. That's called the flower of life. It represents a lot of things. And so there's some great information in books that discuss this. But we need to remember that we are bioenergetic. This is something that has been around for eons, for decades. for the beginning of time, since the beginning of time, and definitely is being found in our written history. And it correlates these flows of energy, they correlate with our conscious thinking patterns and our subconscious thinking patterns. And you can see, there's some general relationships here of our thinking mind. Is our analysis, our thinking, our short-term memory, and our unconscious mind is long-term memory, emotions and feelings, habits, relationship patterns, addictions, involuntary body functions, creativity, developmental stages, spiritual connections, intuition. This below the critical mind, below the line of critical thinking, there's subconscious thinking, unconscious thinking. These are the things that the youth, the child, is downloading what it is to be a human. It is the child is being imprinted of what it is to be a human being. And that begins to, if I could say it this way, program this child. And so there's a famous quote. It says, "Give me the child until 7 and I'll give you the man." What that's saying is that when we look at how a human being becomes a human being, there's a significant critical time when they're in their youth that we can influence them for positive or negative, that turns on, turns off, or in many different nuances. Some areas turning on, some areas turning off in our health, in our vitality, in our body, in our mind, and any topic in our society. And so we can have a big, long conversation. However, what we need to appreciate, and this is what the book here, Decode Your Pain, is all about, is understanding those connections, learning the skill, learning this concept, before the skill becomes a concept, that, I'm going to flash it right here for you, that are, let me get to the right section of the book here, that our body, our mind is speaking to us all the time. We have been taught to see it as pain and symptoms, and that they are a problem, where in fact the pain and symptoms are hiding or are holding the answer, the key for the truth to break through. And so when we have in the back of the book here, Appendix 1, body parts, associated emotions, and possible symbols, I have correlated some of the major areas of a body and put in the possible feelings and emotions and the possible symbolism. Now, this is a deep study in traditional Chinese medicine. It's also in energy healing, and there are way more in-depth charts available that I can help you. And if in the transformation program, you begin to have access to this information. So let's take a look at head, eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. Essentially, these are many of the major perception areas of our body. So if there's symptoms in here, you can get specific, like an eye versus your nose. They do different things, and therefore the perception quality is different. And when you have an area of issue, you want to look at your perspective versus the concern about someone else's perspective. So depending on what eye, that would also open up a conversation, but the eyes are for seeing. So what are you seeing versus what somebody else is seeing? How do you see the world? How do things sound if it's an ear concern? Do you not want to hear it? Are you tired of hearing it? Do you need to hear more? How do you respond to the need to hear more? This gets to be a wonderful yet convoluted conversation about our perceptions, about our responses to our perceptions, how we judge ourselves, how we judge others, and the conversation just continues on and on. And there's purpose to that, because we are dynamic individuals. We are wonderful beings, beautiful beings. We're made in the image, and in that image, we have free will, and this is where our choices matter. Our mistakes make a difference, and how we respond to those choices, how we respond to those mistakes, how we accept them, how we integrate them, all makes a difference. So I want to thank you for tuning in. It's Dr. Kevin Gyurina. It's Transformation Tuesday. We finished the live stream here. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm going to be signing off the main channels, but I'm going to be going back online live in the Decode Your Pain Transformation private group. So if you're there in the private group, stay tuned. I'll be tapping in there and connecting. And if there's any questions about the book, about what I mentioned tonight, we'll be spending some time there live answering those questions. So stay tuned if you're in the private transformations group. Otherwise, I'll see you next Tuesday at 5 p.m. we'll be talking about Transformation Tuesday. Talk about many topics that come up. Any questions, let me know. Blessings and best regards. I'm Dr. Kevin.